welcome back to Fixing with Friends. Today we're on chapter 10 of the $300 painting adventure, where I've been attempting to paint my 75 280Z for as little money as possible. In the process, I also want to deal with the leaking sunroof. So we're going to start getting into some of the metalwork this episode, because along the way I decided I wanted to delete it. We'll get to see how that went, and I don't really want to talk about it now, even though that was quite a few years ago at this point. But we'll get into, what went well, what didn't, what I recommend, and that will be throughout the process. So let's get started. So today we're gonna start off with sunroof again, since I've never done this and I couldn't find any videos on the old style sunroofs. We'll see how it goes. I may ruin it, but worst case, I'll just do a delete. Or I'll find a new sunroof to put in so it's flush. Either way, we'll make it work. But yeah, fingers crossed it's easy. Can't actually cross my fingers right now in these gloves. Alright, sunroof time. I don't know how this comes apart, but I'm just gonna fiddle until... Oh, I see. It's just unthreaded itself. Oh, that was easy. Alright. Oh no, the silicone is stuck to it. There we go. Alright, time to undo my hard work with the makeshift gasket job. Disappointed. Maybe I should retrieve that knife, or razor blade, whatever you want to call it. Oops. I am so going to need to vacuum the car out after this. Now we're cooking with gas. Or something crumbly and charcoal. Now we're cooking with the briquettes. No, I think that just sounds dumb. Is that a nail? No, it's a screw. It's just filled with glue, which makes it... I'll have to soak it in acetone, and then hopefully I can free it up later. I have to soak this whole thing in acetone pretty much, if I ever want it to seal again. So looking at this, I don't know. If this was lower, then I can just flatten this top part out and make it flush. But we'll see what it looks like once I take all these screws out. Garbage. Alright, try and pull that other thing out. If I have you on my lap, for some strange reason, if I lean, you move. Perhaps it has something to do with you resting on top of my coveralls. Just want to punch myself in the face. At least this is in decent shape. I can reuse it if I need to. important to hold it on the other side, or else it's going to just punch right through your roof, apparently, or whatever it's called. So the first thing I want to do while pulling this apart is just slide the roof liner out and then see what we have to work with.
Very, very gently.
Definitely going to have to fast forward this part. That's kind of what it felt like. So this is the back plate that the screws were going into. There's a whole bunch of them. Probably can't even see all the tense facial expressions I'm making as I carefully pull this out, trying not to rip it. They always go for the face. So I'll probably need to re-glue the roof liner, but the good news is it doesn't look like I'll need to repaint the underside of the roof. I mean, it's not fantastically well painted being the interior, but it's not rusting through from the inside anywhere, which is what I was concerned about. So right here you can see that it's not fantastically well cut to the shape, but it is fairly close still. See right there, the metal. Which means that my hope for a more recessed sunroof would probably work. And if I'm doing a delete, I won't have to worry too much about weird jagged edges on the seam. So I'm not going to be able to show you while I do this, but I'm just going to use an X-Acto knife and cut off that bit of silicone sealant, or just silicone, whatever it is, and then pull it apart. I don't even have my safety glasses here. Great. I don't know what that is. It's basically rock. Some sort of old gum. The stuff you used to patch a tire with, but 40 years old. You know what? Maybe I'll just find a hammer and chip that off. And some safety glasses. Definitely hammer. Definitely. While these look ridiculous and is kind of like looking through frosted glass, they have enough coverage that I don't have to worry about all the tiny bits of dust. It's gonna go in my mouth. Yeah, I'll move my head out of the way. What is that, JB Weld? Oh my goodness. I'm gonna need a chisel. Whatever. We'll do it this way. I just noticed this light's on now. Wonder if my battery's dead. It was not on last night. It's on now though. Must be a loose wire. I just started from the hammering. I'm just going to disconnect the battery quickly. Oh good, I left that on. Delete the last one, or most of it.
Wow, you can really tell how much sleep I've been getting.
Alright, so I'm not gonna chip off the thing and separate it. I'm just gonna hit it straight out. I'm gonna have to cut under it or something to try and get the glue out. I don't know how well that's gonna work. Alright. I'm gonna put these on because I don't want literal shards of razor sharp metal going into my eyes. Need something extended. I'll use one of these because I really don't care about them. So, this has been secured with clear silicone all around it, so it's going to be really difficult to take off. What I need is like a giant razor blade, a machete but skinnier. I may need more of these. I can probably wedge a screwdriver in, but I don't want to dent the roof. Nudge this out now. I've rescued you. You can thank me later. I had wanted a big putty knife to begin with, but there's only the skinny one, and I wanted to avoid using it because I don't really want to have to replace it, but that seemed to be working fairly well. Lots of pushing. Lift with your legs. No, there's so much glue. If I pull up, it'll just bend the other side in a more macro way. If it isn't already bent, because it's not going back in. Okay, it was just the lighting. That was an aluminum weld. Not something you can chip apart. That's funny. What is this? A weld? It's an actual weld, not a fake weld. So, sunroof is removed. It's pretty hefty. There's no flex at all. Well, I mean, if you really push, but... Yep, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with this. I might be replacing it with a piece of steel that I can actually bend, because that's not really how aluminum works unless you heat it. And even at that, it's questionable. Anyway, yeah, we'll look into that when the time comes. Which should be now, because planning is better than dealing with it later. See? How much better does that roof line look without the stupid bump on it? Entirely better. So to those of you who haven't ever seen sheet metal on a car before, and are always put off by how people are telling you not to sit on the hood, or the trunk, or the roof, it's because the metal is exactly this thin. And if you sit on it, it's not going to be happy with you. At all. It'll be like, you're too fat. and then the car will be set. Before tracing things out, I mark the orientation with front and driver's side. So this is with the jigsaw, and this is with the tin snips. They both seem to bend the metal a bit, but I think the jigsaw does it a little bit less, although it ends up being more jagged, which isn't the end of the world. I have to grind it anyway. Let's try a bit bigger. What do you think? Tin snips, jigsaw. Let's try the tin snips. No. Although it's kind of keeping this okay, it is wrecking the other metal. Jigsaw it is. For the best cut, you'd probably want to use a bandsaw. Failing that, a cutting wheel. Stop fucking. If you're using a jigsaw, you will want to secure it better than I did, or maybe sandwich it between two sacrificial boards. Fucking is definitely making it worse. Hot always fixes the problem. Best work. A narrower blade would be nice. Maybe I can flatten it out with the vise before I put it in. Just making a mess. I'm just gonna use tin snips. Have to grind it down. It's snowing outside, but I can finally get to the sunroof. Okay, so it looks like very minimal grinding is needed. I don't know what I'm going to do about the silicone. I don't know. Well, I wasn't planning on using the wire brush, but since time is a factor and we're starting to get rust on the galvanized steel, could just be places where I didn't wipe up the paint stripper well enough. I don't know. Okay, So the biggest challenge is going to be keeping a sheet of metal replacing the sunroof from warping. The next biggest challenge is going to be keeping the headliner from catching fire. Other than that, should be fairly straightforward. I mean, the welder's not great, so I don't know how smooth I'm going to be able to get it, but worst case I can just redo it later with a better welder. It'll take time, but I will only have to repaint one section of the car, not the entire thing. Alright, let's start with grinding and trying it to fit. Looks like there's a bit of a curve, not enough to actually bend it to though. I mean, I could try. Maybe I'll just smoothen the edges out because that little bit of bending very, very close to being flush. And I don't want to rub it. Gently. Okay. What do we got? Oh no. Maybe I'll just start welding it in and shave the edges as I go. It's getting quite cold, so I think I'll just tack it. Right, last chance. There it goes. It's already bubbled upwards. Probably need to let it cool before I... Oh. Throw in another pack over here. Oops. First you're expanding metal. Alright. Oh, let's go with it. Thing isn't long enough. Oh, go back down. Good. I want it. Oh, that's not exactly where I want it. Oh, that was not a good tack. Alright, well at least it'll hold itself there now. Again, when you're welding metal, you want to be very careful not to warp it. Wait as long as you can in between tacks or welds and space them out as much as possible. However, you also have to balance fitment, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your weld is fantastic if the panel isn't where it's supposed to be. Ideally, you would hold the panel flush with a few strong welding magnets. I made do with a couple earth magnets that I slid around as I tacked. You can see me readjust as I go. Oh. Warp. So that doesn't look too bad right now. The tack's got a little bit too much heat in the sheet metal and it flattened out somewhat. But if you have a welder that's insufficient, this is where I suggest you stop. Buy some panel bond, grind down your tacks, and maybe form it a little by hand using a heat gun. Because this is where things go very, very wrong. Alright, let's see how badly this goes. So I really need that in-between setting, but no, I can't have it. That was not a successful weld. Because that weld didn't hold, I ended up getting a little fixated and really wanted to make it stick, but because of that I took way too long doing it and that ended rather predictably. Well, trouble the other way. Oh, great. Alright, so I don't know if you can see, but welding, as I suspected, warped metal. And because this old roof doesn't have a lot of support, there's no like cross beams or anything in any direction. They are fairly large, so I should just be able to heat them up and push them up. I don't know if you can actually see though. That's how much it's out. Half a centimeter, and then over here it bubbled down instead of up, so there's another one over there. There. So lots. Luckily it's my car. Removing the sunroof has made it a little less structurally sound because it had these big aluminum ridges. Anyway, so I've got this. Hopefully that's gonna support it. It's gonna go underneath, right along there. Help it so that it doesn't flex so much, because if there's too much flex, the paint's gonna come off. I mean, at this point I don't care so much, because if you look, things have not gone as well as ideal. So first up today, we're gonna just paint this. I'm not going to be painting it white right now because all that stuff is in cans and I'd have to break out the compressors and everything else. So I'm just going to use a spray can of the brown, the same stuff that I've got on the side of the car here. This side I'm going to be repainting once it's in the car. I'm going to paint the roof at a later time, white, but especially for this top part, I really don't want it to rust while it's in there. So I'm going to paint it, throw it in, then repaint all of this at the same time some other time, just so I can get my car back and get driving. I'm gonna call that done. So, that did not go well, and I was not happy with that along any of the process. I ended up welding just to make sure that it wouldn't leak on the bottom surface as well to double it up. Because as I ground the welds down, some of the welds separated, and then I had to weld again, and then repeat the process a couple times, and I just wanted it to be secure, which didn't help the warping. But at that point, things got pretty frustrating, so I just wanted it secure. At the very least, welding from the underside allowed me to crank up the welder without punching a hole through the sheet metal. Tacking from the underside might allow you to have a cleaner finish on the exterior, but be careful not to set yourself on fire or melt the interior. Apparently my coveralls were only mildly flame retardant. If you want to make it easier on yourselves, you can try and use panel bond. Like just tack in whatever panel you're using and use panel bond to sort of seal it, and also structural. It's basically like a sheet metal adhesive that auto body shops use. It is somewhat expensive though, so whether it's worthwhile is another story. If you're going to weld the whole thing, or just welding the sheet metal in general, I really recommend two things. First, that roof specifically, this one didn't have any bracing across the top, so it was just sheet metal, which means it's much more likely to warp. If you have some sort of support in there, it doesn't have the ability to expand and contract to the same extent, and then, you know, as soon as the weld is complete, it'll hold in whatever new shape that it's formed, which is not what you want. So a brace would be good, or the second one, which is make sure you have a good welder, one with infinite adjustability, so a dial, not just the couple switches, and then get the inert gas for it. I knew that the weld wasn't going to be good anyway, so that's why I didn't bother paying extra for the gas, because that wouldn't have helped me any. I couldn't borrow a welder because I didn't have access to a proper 20 amp outlet. 20 amp? 30 amp? Whatever. I think it's 20 amp. When I tacked it, it was fine. Once I started getting into re-welding it and spending that extra time to make sure that the weld actually held, that's when it started warping. And as I mentioned in the video, you gotta spend a little bit of time on one side and a little bit of time on the other, but if the welder's not cutting it, it's not gonna come out well anyway. So just either know that going in, and that's what you've accepted, do what I suggested with the tacks and the panel bond if you can't, or get a hold of someone else's welder for a little bit, rent one, buy one, whatever you want to do. Just get one that's suitable, get the inert gas. It'll save you a lot of time, especially in the regrinding things, because man, as we'll see in the next episode, I cut out most of it, but man. Anyway, we're going to get into more of the, or I guess the rest of the metal work next episode, and then it's on to setting up for the paint and throwing it on there. So, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and if you have, you know, I get it, so let me have it in the comments, because I hate myself more than you hate me. See you guys.